Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. So welcome friends to this Wednesday night Sutta class, and this evening we're going to go over the Chula Sihanara Sutta, which is the shorter discourse on the lion's roar. There's a shorter discourse and a longer discourse. And the lion's roar basically is refers to when the Buddha, kind of told it as it is, when he explained his doctrine in ways that, it outshone the doctrines of sort of the rival sects and the other types of teachers and sects of wanderers and so on that existed at the time. So this talk, when the Buddha was in Jeta's grove, he addressed the monks. He said, "Monks, only here there is a recluse. Only here there is a second recluse. Only here there is a third recluse. Only here there is a fourth recluse. The doctrines of others are devoid of recluses. That is how you should rightly roar your lion's roar." So he's telling the monks that now when he says only here, that means within his teaching, within the teachings of the Buddha, there is the first, second, third, and fourth recluse. Now this refers to the 4 stages of enlightenment: the Sotapanna, the once returner, never returner, and the Arahant. So in the doctrines of the other teachers, like Nigantanathaputta that we've heard about and some others, they don't teach that kind of path to enlightenment. And so they don't have this same kind of criterion that you found within the Buddhist disciples. And so the monk should rightly roar that lion's roar in a way that, that in the Buddhist teaching, there are only the real true recluses, and we'll get to that later, the meaning of that. And the other doctrines are devoid of that. Now that sounds like, kind of a superiority thing or putting down others, but Well, in a way it was, you might say. There might not be politically correct these days. It's, like only my way is right and the other ways are wrong. But he wasn't necessarily saying that. But in terms of the attainments, because it depends on the kind of teaching you have as to what kind of final goal one is going to reach. And is that really the end of suffering? Now, some of those other recluses, they didn't care about the end of suffering. They wanted to be reborn in the sphere of infinite space, or in cosmic consciousness, or whatever they, thought, or in certain God or Brahma realms. To them, that was the highest attainment. But the Buddha is saying, well, okay, that may be for you, but that's not the highest attainment in the teaching of the Buddha. But then, having said that, the Buddha said, but it's possible, monks, that wanderers of other sects might ask you, but on the strength of what argument, or with what authority do the Buddha's disciples say thus? Wanderers of other sects, don't have the real recluses. And then he tells the monks, if they ask you that, you can reply like this: friends, there are 4 things that have been declared to us by the Blessed One, who knows and sees, the accomplished and fully enlightened one. And seeing these things in ourselves, we can say, only here is a recluse, only here is a second recluse, a third and a fourth recluses. Doctrines of others are devoid of recluses. And then he goes on to say, what are these 4 things? They have confidence in the teacher, confidence in the Dhamma. They have fulfilled and follow the precepts. And our companions in the Dhamma are dear and agreeable to us, whether they are laymen or other monks. And by seeing this in ourselves, that's why we say as we do. But then the friends of other, the wanderers of the other sects might then say, well, friends, we too have confidence in our teacher. We too have confidence in our Dhamma. We too have fulfilled the precepts, that is, the precepts that we follow in our Dhamma, and our companions in the Dhamma are dear and agreeable to us. So, they are saying that, they also follow those 4 things, but, the way they follow it in the Buddhist teaching and the way they follow it in their own teaching is, dependent on their teaching. They might have different precepts. They might have different confidence in the Dhamma. And then he says, oh yeah, so he asks them, what is those other wanderers say, what is this distinction here? What is the variance? What is the difference between you and us? So, the Buddha proclaimed that they had these 4 types of things: the confidence in their teacher, following the precepts, confidence in the Dhamma, confidence in their friends. And they say, well, we have these things too. So what's the big deal? What's the difference? What's the distinction between you and us? And so then the Buddha then tells them, well, you can answer them in this way. How then, friends, is the goal one or many? In answering rightly, the wanderers of other sects would answer, the goal is one, not many. But then he says, is that goal affected by lust or free from lust? And they would say, free from lust. And they would answer several is it free? Is it free from hate? Is it free from delusion? And they're saying, yes, it's free from all those things. And then they say, is that goal for one free from clinging or for one affected by clinging? Is that goal for one who has vision or without vision? And all those ascetics, are answering, yes, we have those things too, but the vision may be different, the goal may be different, but they're saying they have those things. And friends, is that goal for one who does not favor and oppose? They were saying, yes, it's also for one who does not favor and oppose. And then he was telling some other things. I hope you could have read the Sutta. And he talks about there are two views of being, the view of being and the view of non-being. And if they adopt one view, that means they oppose the other view. But the Buddha didn't adopt either of those views because he taught the middle way, the Paticca Samuppada. And then he said, any recluses or Brahmins who do not understand as they actually are, the origin, disappearance, and gratification, danger and escape in the case of these two views of being and non-being, then if they don't understand the gratification and the escape and the danger, then they're still affected by lust, hate, delusion, and they're not free from birth, aging, and death. And then he says, monks, there are these four kinds of clinging. What for? Clinging to sensual pleasures, clinging to views, clinging to rules and observances, and clinging to a doctrine of self. And he says, even though these other ascetics and Brahmins claim to explain the full understanding of all kinds of clinging, they do not completely describe the full understanding of all kinds of clinging. So, they say, well, we understand, fully understand clinging, we fully understand craving, but only in their way, not in the way of the Buddha. So this is the main contention and the misunderstanding of these other recluses. Sure, they say they're following the same things the Buddha's teaches, but it's on a different level of belief. And he says, yes, certain other recluses, they may understand the clinging to sensual pleasures, but they may not understand the clinging to views, rules, and observances, and clinging to a doctrine of self. And then there are some other recluses that are the ascetics that may understand a complete understanding of sensual pleasures, the complete understanding of clinging to views, but don't understand clinging to rules and observances, or the clinging to a doctrine of self. And then other ascetics may understand those first three forms of clinging, the clinging to sensual pleasures, the clinging to the rules and observances, and the clinging to views, but they don't understand the clinging to a doctrine of self. So basically, it's the doctrine of self that is clinging to the doctrine of self is what distinguishes the Buddha's teaching from the other teaching. and it's the full understanding of clinging. Because the goal of the other sects their idea of arhat. So they say we all also have arhats, but their meaning of an arhat is different than the Buddha's meaning of an arhat. That's what's important. Even though people use the words, they use words but have different meanings of them. So an arhat was a word that meant somebody who had attained spiritual perfection. But the Buddha's definition of an experience of spiritual perfection is different from these other sects, because these other sects, their goal of spiritual perfection was attaining one or other of some exalted deva god realms. But that's not, those realms were not free from samsara still. So near the end, it says, monks, when a Tathagata, accomplished and fully enlightened, claims to propound the full understanding of all kinds of clinging, he completely describes the full understanding of all kinds of clinging. He describes a full understanding of clinging to sensual pleasures, clinging to views, clinging to rules and observances, and clinging to a doctrine of self. And in such a Dhamma and discipline as that, it is plain that confidence in the teacher is rightly directed. Confidence in the Dhamma is rightly directed. Confidence in the discipline is well proclaimed. And then he goes on to say, these four kinds of clinging have what as their source, what as their origin, from what are they born and produced. He says it's craving. Craving is their source. Craving is their origin. They're born from craving. And then craving has feeling as its source. Feeling has contact as its source. Contact has the sixfold base as its source. The sixfold base has mentality and materiality. So he goes through the rest of the Paticca Samuppada down to the mental formations have ignorance as their source, ignorance as their origin. They are born and produced from ignorance. So basically everything, is born and produced through ignorance. The craving, the four kinds of clinging, all those views. And he says, monks, when ignorance is abandoned and true knowledge has arisen, then with the fading away of ignorance and the rising of true knowledge, he no longer clings to sensual pleasures, no longer clings to views, no longer clings to a doctrine of self. When he does not cling, he is not agitated. When he is not agitated, he personally attains nibbana. He understands birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, and what had to be done has been done. There's no more coming to any state of being. That is what the Blessed One said, and the bhikkhus were delighted and satisfied in the Blessed One's discourse. So, again, it's the because the doctrines of those other sects were not explaining the doctrine of self or no self, and these other views had different types of views about the self. So they explained their practices were in some ways very similar to the practices of the Buddhist monks, but those teachers themselves had did not attain any of those stages of Sotapanna, Sakaragami, Anagami, Arahant, and escaped the wheel of samsara. Even for them, they said it did, but their goal was different, because it was usually being born in one of the realms of the Brahma worlds or the other heaven worlds, and that was the highest attainment these other teachers had gotten. And many of the Buddha's own monks had studied with these other teachers. But when they heard the Buddha expound the Dhamma so well, they said, this, this Gautama, the Buddha, the way he explains the Dhamma, and it's very logical, and they could see how they were not free from that doctrine of the self, and saw how it was the last thing that was preventing them from attaining what they would consider, complete liberation from samsara. So the complete ending of suffering and samsara cannot be realized without the complete understanding of the no self. And so that's basically what the lion's roar was in this the shorter discourse of the lion's roar. So having gone over that, if anybody has any questions that came up concerning that, we'll try to look at those. Says, what are choices in this paragraph? And what is the source of name and form? Consciousness. And what is the source of consciousness? Choices. And what is the source of choices? Ignorance. Choices. I guess you might be reading the sutta from Venerable Sujata's translations. I'm not sure. I guess he's using the word as translated mental formations as choices, I guess. And I'm not sure which paragraph you're referring to exactly. The source of name and form, of course, is the consciousness. And consciousness is the source of name, dependent on name and form. So it's a little bit, because the name is three of the four aggregates. Consciousness is a separate category. So in name and form, name is simply feeling, perception, and volition. Whereas, that's why consciousness is the source of that. And the name and form, consciousness is, comes from the mental formations. And so, yes, depending on ignorance arises the mental formations. Dependent on the mental formations arises the consciousness. Dependent on the consciousness arises mentality and materiality. And dependent on that is the sixfold senses and so on in the Paticca Samuppada. So actually, I'm following Bhikkhu Bodhi's discourse in his book, the Wisdom Publications book. So some of the words and so on are different from the, even though I have attached the Venerable Sujata's translation of the suttas, it's because they're the easiest one to kind of copy and paste because he didn't require any type of permissions or anything else like that. And you can't easily just copy and paste things from some of the other, like Bhikkhu Bodhi's wisdom publications from usually. So that's why I know that I'm reading the sutta from the Bhikkhu Bodhi's wisdom publication source, and the ones that I've been attaching to the emails and sending out to you were from the translation by Venerable Sujato, which is, I mean, basically the meaning is the same, but you've used different verses, like he uses the word choices instead of mental formations, whereas Thanisaro uses the determinations. So, translators use different words to try to explain the same thing, and that's why sometimes there's some confusion in that. I see Prashant is putting up Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation there as well. So, anybody have any other questions that they want to ask based on that sutta? Or it could be some other question if one has one.
And participant can unmute themselves and ask question. And
if somebody wants to just ask a question rather than write it down, could do that. And there's the greater discourse on the lion's roar is more, is longer. Of course, the name implies that, but it goes into explaining all the types of powers that the Buddhists have, psychic powers and other powers that he's explaining to, because hardly any of those other monks had those kind of powers. So that was I might go over that next week, where I might just select another sutta. Okay, so if there's no other Okay, here's another question. Would you say that the 4 forms of clinging mentioned in this sutta is an exhaustive categorization, or are they to be understood as the main forms of clinging? Well, they cover about every possible thing that one could cling to. So the clinging to sensual pleasures, the clinging to views, the clinging to rites and rituals, and the clinging to a doctrine of self. Now, especially the clinging to sensual pleasures and the clinging to views, those are, those alone would cover just about everything you could imagine. And the clinging to rites and rituals, but the clinging in the sense that the clinging, by clinging to these things, it blocks the mind's ability to go deeper into, meditation. And so that's why they're called clinging. And for ordinary people, I mean, they cause suffering, of course, because of the addictions and the greed, hatred, and delusion that arise when you're tightly clinging. I mean, even the views, political views, religious views, people fight and kill over that, religions, right? What they believe. So, they cover almost everything. Otherwise, it would take, many pages of paper to try to, detail them out one by one. This next question. The Buddhist suttas disparage the Jains and Brahmins. The Jains denigrate the Buddha and Brahmins in their suttas. And the Brahmins say both the Buddha and Jain Tirthankars are incarnation of God. Is this strategy of Brahmins the reason for decline of Buddhism and Jainism in India? Yes, I think that has something to do with it. Yes, because they've absorbed the Buddha as one of their own gods. So they say, why do you want to be a Buddhist? He's just part of us anyway. He was just a reformer. He reformed certain aspects of the Brahman's doctrine, but still he's still a Brahman, or he's a god, an incarnation of God. And I think they even said Jesus is one of their incarnations. I'm not sure, but so they absorb everything, the Hindus and Brahmins, in order to say, there's no need to follow that other person. He's a Hindu, really. Or he's an incarnation of our God Vishnu, right? So Vishnu is the main god within one of them within Hinduism. So he's saying that Buddha is the 9th incarnation of Vishnu. And so they teach basically the same thing. So, and, it was easier to practice their ways than Buddhism. So, I think that had something to do with it. And the Jainism is also very, very strict and severe in their asceticism, which the ordinary person would find difficult to do. So, I think that probably did have something to do with the decline, or when Buddhism got wiped out, basically back in the 8th, 9th centuries by the Muslim invasions. Brahmanism regained itself, whereas Buddhism didn't really too much. So, because it was a more popular form of it was more amenable to the common masses. Says, other than understanding the Buddha's expert knowledge, what specific takeaways should we as laypersons take from this sutta to help our daily practice? Well, the takeaway would be, to practice what the Buddha taught, and and especially the trying to understand the doctrine of self and how that becomes an obstacle for freeing, liberating the mind. Now, you're only going to be able to do that once you've attained quite a high level of mindfulness and concentration, because it's a very subtle thing, the feeling and the nuances of the self-consciousness. And only when you've developed a higher level of concentration and awareness can you see those subtleties and how deeply entrenched the clinging, or that feeling of I and me, I, me, mine. Because when we say the doctrine of self, okay, well, doctrine of self, well, I say, but really it's I, me, mine. It's the feeling of I, me, mine that's in our consciousness. And you can clearly see that. Give it to me, look at me. I want this, I want that, and mine. These are the manifestations of the self. And the clinging to this idea that somehow this I is my eternal soul or something, and people believe they're going to be reborn with this I, and they're going to go to heaven and live forever with this I, or some other beliefs, or it'll be annihilated at the time of death. These two clingings to the eternalism and nihilism views of the self. And the Buddha went beyond that. He didn't cling to either of these two views of the self. The self exists or the self doesn't exist. But he taught the paticca samuppada, and how does it come about, and how does it cease? And so that's where the Buddha is very different in the teaching of the doctrine of self from the other views that were saying, well, it's eternal, or it's not eternal, or it's neither or both, and wrangle and dispute about it. So I think that's, as a layperson, take away from this sutta is try to develop your, keep deepening your practice of cultivating mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, because it's only with that you're actually going to be able to see and appreciate that deep expert knowledge that the Buddha had. And it's that if you don't practice the meditation, the correct meditation, then you're going to get stuck in the sort of the lower forms of realization or attainment and so on, which may be fine and dandy for some people, but once you've reached the higher level, you understand, oh, well, yeah, there could be more than that. And so naturally you want to go probe it deeper, not just clinging, well, somebody said that this is the highest thing, so, just we got it now, and, good, we'll be reborn in this heaven for eternity, and, that's all we want. Okay, if that's all you want, so be it. But that's not what the Buddha wanted, and that's not what the Buddha saw as the ultimate reality. Okay. Anybody want to write one more question? Again, you could just speak it up if you want to turn on your mic and ask it directly. You can do that also.
Excuse me, Bhante, but as a novice and a beginner, in trying to reduce the clinging to self, and trying to notice how often I manifest that idea of self. Sometimes I find that noticing how often I would look at myself in the mirror, my image in the mirror, or delight in one's appearance or food, or even in if you cook a good dish, how pleased I am that I did this. Like noticing little things like that, and then avoiding doing that um, is helpful. Am I on the right track in terms of trying to? I know this is very basic, but am I on the right kind of track to trying to avoid clinging at the level?
Well, I would say that, clinging is a very sticky thing, and especially as lay people, it's more difficult. And that's why the Buddha said that, it's harder for lay people to overcome craving and clinging, because they have to live with others for one thing, and others may be, more attached to things than you are, but if you have to live with them. But it's not that, you can't give up the feel. The self is the last thing to overcome. So you be selective in the beginning. You selective. What kind of things you cling to, attach to? What could you let go of? And then of course it's natural to have some kind of pride in maybe what you do, but you don't cling to it so tightly. It's okay, it's there, but you don't let it puff you up, your mind, and mine's better than hers or theirs, and stuff like that. So you have to kind of tread a little bit easy with it, and you start out with some things that are that you cling or attach to that really don't necessarily bring you a lot of benefit, and try to let go of those things, and little by little. But the view of self can only be let go of in meditation. But the reason why we can't let go of the view of self in meditation is because our mind is clinging to these other things. You're meditating and saying, well, you got doubts come up in your mind, you got any of the hindrances, and these are what are stopping your forward momentum in the meditation, where the sense of self would be weaker and kind of fade away, because the sense of self exists in direct proportion to the amount of clinging or identification that we have to any of the aggregates: form, feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, any of those 6 sense objects that I talked last Sunday about, the 60 places where craving arises, right? So, and they're all related directly back to it's the I that delights in these things. We delight in the contact with the things. We delight in thinking about them, examining them, and so on. So, but especially the ones that cause us overt suffering, those are the ones we should, pay specific attention to, like especially with the precepts. You're clinging so tightly, have craving for things that cause you to break the precepts, and those definitely would be the first ones one should try to, overcome. And then the other ones pertaining, that just, even hobbies and anything, and the people always want to be busy, because that's what keeps the sense of I, alive. Like even during this pandemic time, when people should be able to, at least a lot of people, they're not working so much or whatever, they should be able to meditate more. But are they? Some of them might be. I hope some of you are, but I'm sure you are. But still, the mind is very tricky at getting you caught and attracted to other things. So, yeah, it's not
Thank you, Bhante.
it's not easy.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, friends, I think maybe
I think one more person, Kumudni, raised his hand. I think it's,
oh, did somebody raise a hand?
yeah, Kumudni, you want to unmute?
If somebody had a question, go ahead and unmute and ask. One more question.
Bhante, I have a question. It is not regarding this sutta, but it's regarding my meditation practice. I practice my meditation every day. I do more vipassana than anapanasati, but I was listening to a recording of the Manapana Sutra by a monk, and that monk says that in order to go to meditation, in vipassana, you have to follow the first tetrad completely. And I cannot do that because when I start meditating, I get the dhatu, the sensations on my body. So am I doing something wrong, or what is it that I should be doing? Or can I just go to vipassana without doing the first 4 steps of anapana?
Well, people might interpret what those 4 steps mean.
Mm.
And but basically it means gaining some level of concentration.
Mm-hmm.
And to weaken the momentum of the wandering mind and to overcome drowsiness, some of the hindrances. But I wouldn't say you would have to attain fully the first jhana, which usually is interpreted by that first tetrad, is meaning having attained the first jhana.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes into the feelings, and then the mind, and the second, third, and the fourth jhana. Usually that's the way those 16 stages, 4 levels of each of those 4 stages involved in gaining the jhana. But even in the last part, the last tetrad of the Satipatthana Sutta, it says, observing impermanence, breathing in, breathing out, beholding, letting go and relinquishment and cessation. Of course, some people refer that's only to the breathing, but I don't necessarily, agree with that interpretation. But, the Anapanasati Sutta is, Vipassana meditation. But some people limit it just to the breathing, but I wouldn't. So the the feelings is not just the feeling associated with the jhana, but it's any feeling arising that through the senses. So but to use the breathing to get grounded and centered, like I usually guide people meditation, that's the way that I feel is a good way to develop that anapanasati or vipassana. I mean, it's the same,
Yes.
Anapanasati is vipassana, although usually people harp on the jhana, but it's vipassana too. So it's just a matter of the way that you interpret it. Commentaries interpret it in one way, and the people that follow exactly the commentaries they're limited by their view of the commentaries only. But there's there's different ways that you can approach it. So
As going into this same topic a little further, Bhante, when I meditate and I get concentrated, I get these sensations all through my body like an electric current, and it's sort of very fast, and I've reached great heights with that. So my question is, I believed when I went to Goenka meditation sessions that I reached the Vipassana jhanas there. So I think I cannot do the Anapana without getting those feelings. So what do I do?
Well, you know,
It's okay?
because you probably have gone to a lot of those courses, it's so ingrained in your mind that it's very easy for you to get in there. But actually, feeling those sensations, that's the perception of impermanence, you know, so that's beholding impermanence. You're already in the third tetrad of Anapanasati, the flow of impermanence, but don't limit it just to the body sensations. You've got to tune into the other senses too and see how quickly sounds are rising and vanishing in the background. The danger in the Goenka system is you get too much samadhi. Even though they say their perception of body sensation is more samadhi than what I would consider true vipassana. But, because it doesn't have you pay attention to the rapid arising and vanishing of your thoughts and sounds or any other senses. It primarily has you remaining in the body.
Yes.
But ultimately, no self is the goal.
That's right.
Switch.
Yeah.
You know, you only use the body sensations and the flow of impermanence, so there's no time for the mind to develop the idea that I am meditating or this is my body that's impermanent and things like that. So you have to let go of that feeling of I, even
I'm observing the thought processes and all that come and go, even while I'm not meditating, because I listened to all these talks and began to realize that it was not good just to do the Vipassana seated one, like the
you
body
have to
said.
practice it while you're standing and also walking. It's a level of awareness. It's not just a meditation technique.
Right.
That's something we might practice when we're sitting, but it's about developing the present moment awareness.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, friends, I think that'll be all now because we want to now still take a few minutes break and then have a few yoga stretches and then our meditation. Okay, so let's take a few minutes break to use the restroom or drink some water. I'll come back. And hands hanging from the shoulders. Feel the head balanced on top. And then do some 3-part breathing that I was instructing you before, drawing the air from the lower lobes through the middle up to the upper chest, hold the air in the lungs, and the out breath. Again, the in breath. Hold a couple seconds. Out breath. So with the next in breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, arch your lower back. Out breath, turn the hands down, touch the top of the head. Again, in breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back. Feel the sensation. Out breath, touch the head. Once more, in. Release the fingers, the out breath, arms back to the sides. Feel the sensations in your hands and fingers. Let those sensations help hold your attention in the present moment. Just remember standing. And next, on the in-breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms over the head. And stretch. Out breath, come back down, feet to the floor, hands to the sides. Use the breath to help lift and lower the body. In-breath. Out. In. Out. Keep feeling the body, increased sensations. If you can't feel any sensations, remember standing. Just letting go of your thoughts. You can now spread your feet apart. I know you can't see my feet, but spread your feet apart about 3 feet. Place the hands at the chest. Breathe in, raise the hands over the head. On the out breath, lower the hands to the chest and bend the knees and lower the body down. Try to keep the back upright. Feel the stretch in the hips and knees. Keep the feet flat on the floor. In breath all the way up. In out breath. In. Out. In. The out breath, arms back to the side, relax. You just feel the sensations, don't let the mind wander in thoughts. Just remember standing. And next we'll do the twisting. lateral twisting of the spine, holding the arms out, breathe in. Then look at your right hand, and on the out breath, twist around to the right. Keep the eyes focused on the hand going backwards. In breath back to the front. Let the feet turn with the body. And then the other side with the out breath. In breath, front. Again to the right. The in-breath, as you come around, stop, relax. Just keep feeling the sensations, remembering standing, standing. And now we'll do backward and forward bending. Just let the hands touch the front of your legs. Breathe in. On an out breath, bend forward. Let the hands slide down to the knees the first time, but keep the head up, looking out straight ahead. Try to flatten the back. Need to get the hump out of the spine. Keep the legs straight. In the in-breath, lift up. Move the hands under the buttocks for support. Gently let the head go back. In the out-breath, bend backwards. Keep your eyes open, look up at the ceiling. In-breath, carefully lift up. Be aware of a strong rush of sensation. And the out-breath, again, bend forward. Let the hands come below the knees if you can. Still keep the head up. In-breath, lift up. Again, the back bend. In-breath. The third time, let the hands come down as far as you can toward the feet. Then hold that position longer. Feel the stretch in the hamstring muscle. In-breath, lift up. And once more, the back bend. In-breath, lift up. In the out-breath, just relax. Feel the whole body vibrating, pulsating. Okay, now bring the feet closer together. Just one last exercise, the head turning. On an in-breath, turn your head to the right. Try to look over your right shoulder, turn your eyes to the right. Focus on some spot behind you. In the out-breath, turn 180 degrees back to the left. Look over the left shoulder, turn the eyes to the left. In-breath back to the right. Just concentrate into the neck vertebrae. Just feel or imagine them loosening up. Out breath left. Once more to each side. And the in-breath, let the head stop in the middle. Just feel the whole body. Just remember standing, standing. Just feel all the subtle life force vibration sensation. Okay, we'll go ahead and get ready for the sitting meditation. So let's try to get comfortable in your seat. I'm going to turn off the video so you concentrate within yourself. So if you're sitting in a chair, try to keep your feet flat on the floor. Try not to lean back on the back of the chair, but try to align the head and spine in a straight line over the hips. Once you place your hands somewhere, either on your lap or on your resting on your legs, try not to move them. And gently close the eyes. And first of all, just feel the weight of the body pressing the seat. Feel where the buttocks press the seat or cushion. Feel the right one, the left one. Feel that sensation of hardness, the earth vibration. And kind of mentally go down the legs to feel your feet and toes. They press the ground. Try to feel some sensations in your feet or toes, or if you're wearing socks, the sensations of the socks on the feet. This present moment, objects of the present moment. And let the awareness move up to feel your hands and fingers touching. Where they touch together, where they touch your legs. And feel the subtle sensations in the hands or fingers. And feel your shoulders, relax the shoulders, feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Feel the touch of the clothing on against the skin of the shoulders, the arms, the chest. And then feel the head balanced on top of the neck. Try to find that center of gravity, the head and spine over the hips. And gently move the whole head and spine backwards till you kind of feel that, get close to the tipping point. And then just hold that position, that alert posture. Just try to feel the outline of the whole body. And feel the eyes resting in the socket. From that point behind the eyes, you should be able to feel kind of the vague outline of the sitting body. Try to hold that in the mind's eye. Then begin some deep, slow breathing, a 3-part breathing if you can. Just drawing the air from the lower lung up through the middle to the upper lung, expanding the chest, holding the air in a couple seconds, feel the pause, and feel the relaxing contraction of the out breath, following the out breath down to the in, the last bit of air going out, and then the next in breath. Just try to take several deep, slow breaths like that, cultivating this basic mindfulness. And breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to try to count the breaths from 1 to 10 to gain a better concentration. So continue to take some deeper breaths if you can. On the next expanding in breath, mentally count 1. With the contracting out breath, count 1. The next expanding in breath, 2. Contracting out breath, 2. Next in breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In breath, 4. Out breath, 4. In breath, 5. Out breath, 5. In breath, 6. Out breath, 6. In breath, 7. Out breath, 7. In breath, 8. Out breath, 8. In breath, 9. Out breath, 9. In breath, 10. Out breath, 10. Now discontinue the counting. Discontinue deep, slow breathing or controlled breathing. Just let the breathing return to its own uncontrolled rhythm, but continue to feel it, to follow the movements with mindfulness. It's the shorter, softer sensations of expanding and contracting. And just know when you're breathing in and know when you're breathing out. You know it by feeling it. Residual sensations, whether you feel it in the nostrils or you feel it in the abdomen or chest. Main thing is staying awake, staying connected, and remembering in, sitting, out, sitting. It's the connection to the present moment. Try to notice how each breath is different. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It's always changing. Let's make that the main focus of your concentrated awareness. Present moment awareness. But at the same time, be alert for thoughts trying to sneak in, to steal away your attention. In sitting, out, sitting, breath by breath, moment by moment, especially with each out breath, allow the body and mind to relax more and more to the present moment. Start to feel all 4 phases of the breathing cycle. You're expanding in breath and the brief pause, contracting out breath, and the brief pause. You get caught up in thinking, recognize it as thinking. Gently let go of the thought. Take a deep, slow breath. Bring the mind back into the body. Back to in, sitting. Out, sitting. Just balancing both concentration and mindfulness. The concentration is ability not to forget the breathing, to Continually remember breathing in, breathing out. The mindfulness is alert to notice any hindrances arising, if you're getting a little drowsy or too many thoughts. Apply the appropriate antidotes. Come back and do some deep, slow breathing. A few three-part breaths. Stay grounded, centered, connected in the body. Let's try to notice subtler, finer details of the breathing body process. Feeling the body around the breathing. The breathing is there in the center of the body, but around it you can feel other sensations. Clothing touching the skin, or little itches or prickling sensations, aches or pains. Those are all going on even while the breathing. Called contemplating the body in the body. The body of breathing within the larger body. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. It's the ongoing, continuous connection to the present moment. This breathing body is the anchor for the mind of the present moment. Thoughts come and go, sensations come and go, sounds come and go, drowsiness comes and goes. These are all just the continuous changing conditions of the body and mind. The body keeps breathing in, breathing out. Underneath all that mental activity, chaos, it's the ever-present dimension of the now, the present moment. So be aware of any thoughts of I or me or mine that arise in the mind. Activity of the self. Just knowing how this sense of I or me arises, how it continues through identification and clinging to the five aggregates. Breathing in, sitting. Breathing out, sitting. Always coming back to reconnect, reground, center in the breathing body. If it helps you to concentrate, you can count the breaths again from 1 to 10 by yourself. Do some deep, slow breathing to help stay awake, alert. From time to time, checking the posture, lift the chin up or straighten up the spine, slouching. You're practicing vipassana, try to be aware, identify the aggregates, form, feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, as they're continually arising and vanishing in the flow of impermanence. If you catch yourself totally lost in thoughts or sleep, recognize it as lost. If you take a deep, slow breath, find the body sitting on the floor. Come back to breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting, tuning back into the flow of impermanence. or developing your concentration. Or some strong pains arise that pull your attention. Focus on those painful sensations, how they're constantly changing. Relax the body and mind around them. Try to notice all the different little sensations within that knot of pain. If you have a real good awareness of the flow of impermanence, and a sense of equanimity, just try to feel or imagine this body as an empty house, with nobody home answers the call, knocking on the doors and windows. Let the sense of eyes gradually fade away into the background. What kind of perception arises in the mind based on that sound, contact? Is it relief that the meditation is over? Wanting it to continue longer? Anicca vata sankhara upadavaya dhammino upajitva nirunjanti te samupasama. Nati janam apanya cha panya nati ajaitu yam hi janan cha panya cha siri nibbana santiki. Impermanent are all conditioned things. They arise only to pass away. Having arisen, then they cease. The subsiding of them is bliss. And there's no meditation without wisdom. No wisdom without concentration. One who both concentrated and is wise is close to peace and freedom. Now let's spend the last couple minutes of the meditation again sending out thought vibrations of metta, friendliness, best wishes towards ourself and all beings. And again, try to take some deep, slow breaths, some 3-part breaths. And filling up the lungs, hold the air in the lungs a few seconds to feel that sensations of the oxygenating blood going out to all the cells of the body, which is like metta to them, charging them up with life force. And feel the relaxing contraction, healing vibrations of the out breath. Just take a few more breaths like that. Just sending those, feeling those piti vibrations, pleasant sensations of the deep breathing throughout the body and mind. Thinking like this to yourself as you're breathing in, may I be well, peaceful and wise. And on the out breath, thinking, may all beings be well, peaceful and wise. And breathing in, may I be free from pains and sufferings of body and mind. And breathing out, may all beings be free from pains and sufferings of body and mind. And breathing in, may I have patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom. And breathing out, may all beings have patience, strength, mindfulness, and wisdom. So with each out breath, just imagine those metta vibrations going out across the whole earth and world and beyond. These healing vibrations of pure love, pure energy, pure wisdom. With the idea, may all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. May all beings be well, peaceful, and wise. Again, if you like, you can join in chanting the sound sadhu on a long out breath. So take a deep breath. And place the hands at the edge of the knees. Take one more deep, slow breath. Stretch your head back. With the in-breath, arch your lower spine. Hold it a few moments. Then lift the head up. And on an out breath, press the chin to the top of the chest. Stretch the neck vertebra. And lift the chin up level on an in-breath. On the out breath, relax and put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. So this brings our evening to an end. I hope you're able to have at least a few moments or minutes of some peaceful awareness, some insights. Anybody have any last any question or comments? I just wanted to remind people that on Sunday I'm going to be away from our Lion of Wisdom Center in Washington, D.C. at the Buddhist Vihara at their